Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN Weekly for Saturday, November 12th, 2022. It's been another great week of shows with great topics and, of course, great guests. We kicked off the week with a look at why the U.S. retirement system is failing workers. Let's take a look.
Policymakers, we see a lot talking about the middle class and trying to improve the lives of middle class Americans. And a lot of what they focus on or talk about is kind of wages and the cost of healthcare and education. But a crucial part of being part of the middle class is ensuring that you get to your retirement years with a comfortable amount of savings. But right now, 30% fewer Americans are actually saving for retirement than were before the pandemic. And that kind of is a big thing that motivated us into kind of researching it and putting out this report and delving a little bit deeper into seeing kind of what types of workers are prepared for retirement or are not. And kind of what we found is that these gaps between the haves and the have-nots in the retirement space are widening, and they're widening rather quickly. So one of the big things that we highlight in the report is, like, as you said, the retirement wealth gap is widening and it's happening rather quickly. So the top earners in this country are seeing a huge increase in their retirement wealth. But low-income workers are not seeing much growth at all. So the stat that we highlight that we found is that the top 10% of earners have seen over the past 30 years their retirement wealth increase by around 400%. But for the bottom 20% of earners, their wealth has grown only 30%. So it's a crazy kind of gap, and it's widening rather quickly over the past 30 years. Just to see that type of gap growth is pretty significant. And so that, as you said, spells kind of bad news for future generations if these are kind of the way that things are trending as it is right now, and sort of the things that baby boomer generation is seeing when we get 20 to 30 to 40 years down the line when millennials are retiring. If this is kind of the pace at which the retirement wealth gap is widening, that's not great. And it kind of highlights that sort of things need to change, at least in the private retirement space, to kind of address that. We've kind of seen in previous decades, you went to work and you had a pension and you were certain that kind of when you reached retirement, you'd have a comfortable amount of retirement savings. But now, so while some employers are kind of offering employer-sponsored retirement plans, a lot aren't, as you said. I think a recent survey from AARP said only 50% of workers have access to an employer-sponsored retirement plan. So that's putting a lot of the burden on workers to be kind of figuring out their financial futures and thinking about how they're going to save and how much they're going to save. And that could be really difficult if you are kind of deciding between filling your gas tank and putting groceries in your fridge or saving for retirement. And that kind of leads into the second thing, though, that you were saying, which is that there's a lot of inequities in kind of our entire economic system. Wage gaps, kind of what types of workers are working in certain professions, kind of the amount of debt held by different types of workers or groups of individuals. And then those all contribute to the ability of people to put away savings for the future. So kind of that combination, and it's really a kind of a multi-influence, kind of a lot of things influence how people are able to save for retirement. So I'll say the first thing that we highlight in the report is just how much white households hold of retirement wealth in this country. It's around 85% of the retirement wealth in the US is held by white households, which is significantly higher than their representation in the US population. So as a result, Black and Hispanic households have a really small fraction of retirement wealth. This is sort of a combination of access to retirement accounts. Housing wealth plays a role in there, as well for kind of just the future of retirement. And so that's a really concerning gap to see just how much white households are holding in terms of retirement wealth. And then the other big thing that we kind of found in our research and putting together in this report is that while education across the board and accessing more education kind of improves retirement savings for all groups of workers, it really benefits white households much more than households of color. So the big stat that we highlight is that a Black individual who receives a bachelor's degree has the same amount in retirement savings as a white individual with just a high school degree. And so that's kind of an example of a startling stat that shows just how much the disparities are impacting kind of households of color in this country.
Next up, we discussed the genetic link between autism and sleep disorders. Let's take a look.
Sleep is, and good quality sleep is associated with good health. Sleep problems invariably lead to issues of in cognition and behavior. Irritability can be associated with reduced sleep, reduced attention span. Overall metabolic health can be affected by poor sleep. And so you do your best by getting the best sleep you can, you do your body the best. And so it's really important to try and maintain a consistent and healthy sleep profile. That's the consensus in the field, and especially certain types of autism have notably more severe sleep problems than other forms of autism. My lab has studied Fragile X syndrome for over 20 years, and one of the major complaints of the parents, one of the first things that comes out of their mouth is that my kid does not sleep properly. And with this disorder and many other disorders of autism, the sleep cycles are broken up. The children have problems sleeping for extended periods of time, and also their time of day the time of day that they have sleep is a real problem. In that, with Fragile X in particular, the individuals might sleep in the middle of the day and wake up at 2 a.m. and think it's early morning time to get up and start the day's activity. So it's both a sleep duration and a time of day sleep problem with that form, as well as other forms of autism.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish your
and
thought.
so this is it exacerbates the problems of care of these individuals. The parents, of course, their sleep is impacted, and so it has an overall creates a problem for the whole family dynamic. Many of the genetic causes of autism have been found to lead to animal models. So a lot of our work is done in animal models, where we take a genetic change that is present in an individual with autism. Let's say with Fragile X, there's a gene called FMR1, and the individuals who have Fragile X don't express that gene. So people have made fly and mouse models of Fragile X by taking that gene away out of the fly or out of the mouse, and then examined the behavior of this individual model organism. And in the Fragile X case, we see that the Fragile X flies have no discernible circadian rhythm. So that's one route of identifying a link between autism and sleep problems, and that just going after a gene that's linked to autism, we find that the animal models show sleep defects. Now, another way that has shown a link is this a recent study that was done in McGill, where they took the genomes of individuals that had autism, and then they also looked at the genomes. So this is sequenced DNA of each individual, of individuals that were the siblings of those who had autism. So a brother or a sister who does not have autism, but yet they're in a family with autism. And then they've also taken and looked at DNA from a random collection of individuals, thousands of individuals. And what this study found was that if they looked at copy number variants, which is what you call a region of DNA that's either duplicated or that's removed from the normal genome, what they found was that there was a dramatic enrichment of genes that were linked to insomnia and linked to circadian genes that regulate our time of day clock, that regulates when we wake up, when we sleep. And so this really is a very powerful study, in that it really says if you identify individuals with problems in the normal circadian regulation or in the ability to fall asleep, as in the case of insomnia, you are enriching for individuals that are likely to have autism.
Well, we're halfway through a look at our best segments for the week. When we come back, The other half, you're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN Weekly. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. And next up, we discussed when to submit those trades for exchange-traded funds. Let's take a look.
So an ETF is a lot like a mutual fund. So you can think of it as a wrapper that encompasses a lot of different stocks or bonds or commodities. It can really span anything. So again, it's very analogous to a mutual fund. The benefits are that it trades throughout the day. And this trading throughout the day has its costs and its benefits. So when we look at the data, we see huge spikes in volume traded right at the market open. So the first 10 minutes of trading, and kind of right around the market close, so the last 20 minutes of trading. You really see everybody buying and selling out of positions there. And especially in the middle part of the day, around lunchtime, that's kind of the most quiet period. And so the theory is the more that there's active trading going on, the better it is for you to buy in and buy out. So the prevailing theory is that you should buy in, buy out at the market open or at the market close. So we went and actually hand collected over a whole quarter, the most recent quarter, and we went in and we looked at what a particular ETF was trading at in the morning, the mid-afternoon, the late afternoon, and the close. And we looked at something very specific, which is what we call the bid-ask spread. Now, the bid-ask spread is just the spread between what you can buy a stock or an ETF at and what you can sell it at. And this is a measure of what we call implied transaction costs, because you, as the person buying it, is always going to be on the losing end of that transaction. You're always going to pay that little bit of difference. And so we looked at how that evolves over time. And we looked at it for 40 of the top traded ETFs out there. We tracked it over time, each day and for an entire quarter. I think it's when partially that and partially when information comes out. So I think everybody's raring to go in the morning because new information's come out overnight. So they place all their trades then. And then obviously at the close, you want to go home for work. So you place all your trades then, or you want to go home, to have dinner. So there's maybe some price pressure at the end of the day because of, as you mentioned, the mutual fund trades that are taking place because they transact once a day. That could definitely be partially driving this. Yeah.
And finally, we compared over-the-counter hearing aids to their prescription rivals. Let's take a look.
That's why it's so important to take that first step, meet with an audiologist, get your hearing aid evaluated so that you can establish what your hearing thresholds are, and then talk with that audiologist about what the different options are that are available for your specific treatment. The selection of a hearing aid is going to be based on your hearing levels. It's going to be based on your lifestyle and your listening needs. It's also going to be based on your budget. So there are a lot of things to consider when going through that process. And the best course of treatment is to meet with someone who has that knowledge and expertise so that they can guide you through that process. People do feel very self-conscious about that. And I've had a lot of patients tell me that they're hesitant to use hearing aids because they don't want to look old. And in truth, in my experience, and I've had this experience with my own family members that are aging and have developed hearing loss, is that the hearing aids aren't going to be what makes you look old. It's your inability to follow the conversation accurately is what's going to make you look old. So the hearing aids are just going to give you back that quality of life. And they are incredibly small and incredibly inconspicuous. So there, again, tons of styles to choose from, but it's very difficult to really tell if someone's wearing a hearing aid unless you know what to look for. Not only are they really tiny, but they're very sophisticated. So some people would prefer to still continue using those small little battery pills that are disposable. They would need to be changed about once a week. But now hearing aids are coming with fully rechargeable batteries where all you have to do is take them off at the end of the day and pop them into a charger and they'll charge overnight. And then you can just put them on your ears the next day. And most of those rechargeable batteries will last more than enough time for someone to get a full day's use. So we're talking close to 22, 24 hours. So you no longer run that risk of being somewhere and trying to listen to something important and having your battery run low and having to change the batteries. And the upside of that is a lot of people do experience issues with dexterity, and handling those tiny little battery pills and trying to change batteries becomes more and more of a challenge. So the rechargeable batteries do eliminate that as a factor. And then lastly, touching on that connectivity with Bluetooth, absolutely. You can connect your hearing aids to your cell phone, and then your cell phone could be 30 feet away, and you can have a phone conversation through the hearing aids and listen to your conversation through the hearing aids. The hearing aids will pick up your voice to the person you're talking to. And it's just an ease of communication that you just don't get when you're trying to talk on a telephone and listen over speakerphone, or not being able to hear very clearly when you're holding the phone to your ear. So very different experience, but designed to function seamlessly in the way that we live our lives day to day. The FDA has come out with new regulations. Those regulations went into effect on October 17th of this year. What those regulations did was they essentially created a new category distinct from what are called prescriptive hearing aids, which the kind of hearing aids that I would dispense out of my office or that a licensed hearing healthcare provider would dispense out of their office. They created a new category of over-the-counter devices. The differences between what you can find over the counter versus what you would get through a licensed hearing healthcare provider, there are a couple of really big differences. One would be those over-the-counter devices are really designated for any individual that is 18 and over who has a perceived mild to moderate hearing loss. So someone who is younger than the age of 18, so a child who's struggling with hearing loss, would not be able to take advantage of those over-the-counter devices. In addition, someone who has a hearing loss that is greater than a moderate hearing loss would not be able to take advantage of those devices. Those devices would not be medically appropriate. There are some individuals that can most certainly take advantage of those devices. Some other differences that exist between the over-the-counter devices and prescriptive devices have to do with not just the devices themselves and the functionality and the output, because again, the output is really just designed for someone who has a milder hearing loss, but the price point. So hearing aids that are sold over the counter, they're saying, if you look in the articles that come out in the media, there was an article that came out in the Washington Post the other day that was excellent, talked about the average cost of hearing aids. A lot of people have in their minds that the average cost of a set of hearing aids is going to be breaking the bank, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000. That's not necessarily the case. Really does depend on where you go. It depends on the technology level of the devices that you're buying, and it depends on the provider that you're being seen by. Devices that are sold over the counter, what I've seen so far are about $800 a pair and up. So it's not that much of a cost savings when you know that you can go to a licensed professional, have them help you and guide you through the process, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into with a licensed professional, and have them take over the care for not that much more. So in addition, the last difference between the over-the-counter devices and the prescriptive devices is if you choose to go the route of purchasing something over the counter, you do not need to have a hearing test. It's not required. However, if you come see me and decide to go the route of purchasing hearing aids, we have to test your hearing. We have to know what we're doing and what we're fitting and what the hearing aids are doing to treat your hearing loss. That's a big thing. In my opinion, I'm not sure that it's smart to ever go the route of treatment without first establishing what the need is. So again, it's fine if someone has gone to an audiologist and has had their hearing tested, they already know their hearing levels, and they've determined that they don't have greater than a moderate hearing loss. If they feel that they are that tech savvy, they can certainly go the over-the-counter route. But in my opinion, the recommendation would be to meet with that audiologist first, establish your hearing levels, and let the audiologist guide you through that decision-making process. I know there are a lot of zealots out there. They love cleaning their ears with Q-tips, and it feels good. We know it feels good, but it's definitely risky. We want to encourage people not to do that. There's actually not a need to do that. The ears are self-cleaning. The best thing to do is let the ear function as it's meant to and clean itself. And the easiest way to make sure that you're cleaning your ears is with a washcloth and soap, or do it in the shower. There are people that do have a tendency to build up earwax, in which case you might experience difficulty with your hearing and an earwax blockage, in which case you'd want to go to either an ENT or an audiologist and have that earwax removed. But otherwise, there is no need to use those Q-tips. And in fact, the Q-tips do the opposite. They might come out and look like they've got wax on them, but what you're actually doing is packing in whatever wax might currently be in your ear and making it harder for it to work itself out.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN Weekly. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, and all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content? Well, visit our website and, of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for BRN Sunday. I'll be joined by members of the media, academia, financial services, and government to discuss all the latest news and events for the week. So until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.